April 28th, 2002. Miraculously, only 3 fatalities, 70-mile track, overshooting top. There you can see the supercell there produced. This tornado went all the way across the Chesapeake Bay, all the way to the Maryland Eastern Shore. It even had a tornado, satellite tornadic water spout with it as well. Washington Post did a front page story the next day skewering our competition because NBC stayed with the basketball game, didn't break in. Another station didn't do anything, so it was us and one other station. And you know, that's the type of things, that's what we do. It's the most important thing we do as a TV station, is to report. Now, sometimes it goes the other way. As my colleagues can tell you, we don't always know, but we always err on the side of safety. I have interrupted the season finale of Glee for a tornado warning in Tarrant County. And debris was being reported, and I went with it, and we stayed on the air. As it turned out the next day, there wasn't officially a tornado, and so we got skewered for that. And it's just, you can't take chances, because these storms sometimes are moving 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. They may be plowing through neighborhoods a mile a minute, and we can't afford to wait to get 100% verification, because time is crucial. Time means potentially saving lives, getting life-saving information out to people. Our chasers, Paul Stouffer, there's Michael Beer, Justin Cohen, Gene Yates, Chad Casey, Victor Flores, Russ Contreras, Nick Busby. All of these guys, again, we have a serious debt to. They go out and they chase for us, and they provide some incredible information that helps us get the message out to our viewers. So I want to send a big kudos out to all those gentlemen as well. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I think I went right by something here. Just some contact information for us. We've got a weather tracker hotline. Usually we reserve that for rainfall. So if you'd like to call that, it's 214-720-3363. You can get us on Facebook, our Fox 4 weather page, Twitter, X at Fox 4 Weather, and each of our emails too. So each of us has our own email account. So for Evan, it's evan.andrews@fox.com, Kylie.caps@fox.com, Dylan.federico@fox.com. So if you're watching TV and let's say it's Dylan that's on the air, you can also email him and so that he gets it. But we also are constantly checking our social media for photos and videos. That is really, really helpful to us. What we need is to be weather reports, rainfall reports, photos and videos. Now, it's easier for us to share Twitter videos. We really haven't figured out Facebook videos yet, at least incorporating that into our weather center, our weather system. Hold your phone sideways. So we don't have to crop out the edges. So when you're shooting video, you're taking pictures, you want to hold your phone sideways, not up and down. I see a lot of people hold their phone up and down. And it's just as the National Weather Service was saying, location, time, pertinent details. Example, a few hailstones were as large as golf balls, but most were quarter size, or most were pocket change. So that helps us when you get really, really specific. How many of you guys in here have either chased or have an interest in chasing? Oh, well, okay, so a fair number. So good, this part will not be lost in you. So, some information about that. You want to learn storm structure. You want to participate in as many classes like today as possible. There's a lot of good information on the internet too, where you can learn. Knowing what the storm is doing without relying on radar. Because you know what? When you go out there and you get outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you may not have any radar. You may not have cell service. So what you're going to rely on is you and looking at the storm. And if you don't know anything about storm structure, then you are flying literally blind without any aid there. So remember that. GPS is not always reliable, and sometimes roads out in the countryside can look like that, impassable. And if you get yourself caught in a situation like that, that's extremely dangerous. So you always need to think 2-3 steps ahead of the storm. You want to put yourself in a position where you have escape routes, east and west, north and south, with a constant eye on the storm. Realize too that when the SPC puts out something like that, you may not want to go out and chase, because it is a circus out there. Each one of those dots represents somebody that's got their GPS tracking on. That doesn't account for all the knuckleheads that are out there with maybe the family in the family minivan that are out chasing with the people that are out there as well. So it becomes what we call chaser convergence, and roadways become clogged, and there are traffic jams, and it becomes really, really dangerous. So just know that on those days, it is going to be a zoo out there. And yes, a little bit more about cell phone service, or the lack of it. Never rely on one form of radar data. Wireless data and apps can be severely limited with the overload demand. All those red dots out there, everybody's trying to compete for what might be very limited bandwidth. So you may not have it, or it may be real sketchy. If you're going to do this seriously, you want to have satellite-based radar, or at least try to have mobile devices using multiple wireless carriers. So maybe somebody in the car has Verizon, somebody has AT&T, somebody has T-Mobile, to increase the odds that you keep. I went right by that. That's one of my favorites here. So that's Evan and I have a chase vehicle that looks just like that one right there. We fight over who's driving. But
that's me with the hair.
That's you. I had a great set of hair back in 1977, I'll tell you what. But all kidding aside, you want to have at least one chase partner. Don't go solo out there. You really need 2, if not 3 people, keeping an eye on the road, the traffic, the sky, the radar. That's a lot to keep track of, and one person cannot do it safely. That's for sure. And if you can't have one person that's the dedicated driver and one who's a navigator, we think we all know a lot about the weather until we get humbled. And if you do this long enough, you will get humbled. The storm will throw you a curveball that you were not expecting. And you have to be able to anticipate that, and you have to be able to react to that. So it's a good idea to check your ego at the door on chase day before you get yourself into trouble and you're writing checks that your body can't cash.
Oh.
So again, your number one priority should be getting home safely at the end of the day. If it looks too risky, then back away and get into a safer location. And in the words of Tim Marshall, who I quoted in my book and interviewed in my book, there are certain situations you simply have to abort, back out, and live to chase another day. One of them was El Reno several years ago in Oklahoma. That storm did just about everything. It slowed down to a crawl. It sped up to 40 miles an hour in a matter of a couple of minutes. The condensation funnel itself was maybe 3/4 to a mile wide, but the tornado was actually over 2 miles wide at times.
Whoa.
And parts of that you could not see. It had satellite vortices that were rotating around the parent tornado at over 200 miles an hour. That's what Tim Samaras and his son, they got caught up in one of those satellite vortices. So it changed direction abruptly, and so storms will do that. There's, sometimes the behavior is very, very erratic, and it can certainly catch you off guard. Couple of quick things about my book. I have some copies for that for sale out there. It includes Tornado Genesis. So, but one of the things one of the reasons I wrote the book is I did a number of storm interviews with storm survivors, and I felt like, and all of us can relate to that. And most meteorologists, we're in a room. We're surrounded by four walls. We may or may not have a window. We don't have any windows in our weather office. And we're tracking these storms, and sometimes we kind of lose touch with what's going on out there. And so that was my way of interviewing a lot of storm survivors, and every single one of them had one thing in common, and that's they all suffered from PTSD. And sometimes, these storms can literally turn lives upside down. And some fascinating interviews in there. But anyway, I think I've spoken enough. Do you guys want to add anything? So,
I'll add that your book is also available on Amazon,
so
you know.
yeah.
Oh,
Let's not talk about Amazon though. That's a dirty little secret about authors at Amazon will tell you that's.
Well, they don't give you anything?
So yeah, nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. So, anybody have any questions about? Way in the back.
that's it.
Yeah, she got real lucky. If her skin was tingling, she was about ready to get struck. But what I tell people is if you hear thunder, you are a close enough target to be struck by lightning, and you need to get inside right away. But lightning will do some really, really funky things. Anybody else have any other?
I got a question. I'm originally from Aransas Pass, so we grew up on the coast. So grew up with hurricanes all my life. Now, do you think in '96 Bill Paxton kind of put weather on people's mind from that movie Twister?
It did. And there's no question that movie had an impact. University of Oklahoma, I think they had 4 times as many people, register for the meteorology program there. And then they found out, oh my gosh, you got to take a lot of high-level math and physics. Yeah, I just want to chase. Yeah, I want to do all the math. So that's that. But it's, it raised attention, but it also kind of, there were some fallacies there. It made it seem like, it was like they're cowboys and they're just lassoing tornadoes left and right. I would say probably 1 out of every 10 chases may result in you seeing a tornado. And certainly you don't want to get as close as they were getting because, there are old storm chasers and there are very active storm chasers, but there aren't very many old, active storm chasers, or I should say ones that take gambles and are risky. It's Hollywood. It was very entertaining. There was some bad science in there too, but it's still an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate a couple of points. When you said cutting edge programming, you guys did an excellent job. I think it was 2021, the tornado that went through North Dallas around Royal.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys cut in, other stations cut in. Channel 5 did not because they were showing the Dallas Cowboy game. And I immediately sent a letter to Rick Mitchell saying that was completely unacceptable. So kudos to you for doing what you were supposed to do in that instance back in Maryland.
And funny you say that. I addressed that in my book too. There's a part of a chapter about that, but it's a really tough situation to be in. We can all sympathize with it. It's big Dallas Cowboys game with playoff implications, and I know, had they had it to do over again, they would definitely have cut in, but we got lucky because Allie and I were there. The warning went out literally right at 9 o'clock, right at the beginning of our 9 o'clock newscast, and so we were able to stay with it the entire way. You want to talk about pretty much a worst case scenario. A tornado that literally sits down just west of I-35, trucks across I-35, the tollway, Preston, Central Expressway, some of the most highly populated areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there were no fatalities. And I think it was good warning, number one. Also, number two, I think a lot of people, that game was a blessing in disguise because I think a lot of people were inside, on their couch, watching the game. I know I interviewed several people in the neighborhoods that were hit, and they all told me a similar story. They heard the outdoor warning sirens go off. They're getting alerts on their phone, so they knew something was going on. But they're watching the game, so they're kind of, paying attention, not paying attention. And then the outdoor warning siren stopped. And here's one of the misconceptions with outdoor warning sirens is once they stop, that doesn't mean the threat is over with.
Yeah.
Okay, so they might sound for 2 or 3 minutes and then go off. Well, a lot of the people that I interviewed thought, oh, well, we're not hearing them anymore, so the threat must be over, and we're not seeing or hearing the weather anymore. And then maybe 30 seconds after that, power went out. And it was eerily silent. And then maybe 10 or 15 seconds after that, the wind went from 0 to 150, just like that. And I heard many accounts of people that literally were sitting in their living room on their couch, and windows are shattering, and the roof is literally peeling off the home. Many homes lost their roofs in North Dallas. That tornado, we think of tornadoes as just horizontal wind. They've also got a lot of vertical wind. Recall back to the tornado that hit back, I think it was 2013 in Dallas. And the video of the tractor trailers that were literally being like toys cast in the air. So a lot of tornadoes have a lot of upward lift too. So again, lowest floor, interior room, away from exterior walls or windows is your best bet.
How much do the computer models factor into the final forecast that you'll get?
How much do they?
Factor in or plan?
It depends on the weather situation. Sometimes computer models are very helpful. But when you're talking about thunderstorm initiation, it's very, very complicated. And so, you can glean some information from them, like maybe initiation time, maybe general, but every single thunderstorm event is going to play out differently. Sometimes storms can behave like, especially single cell storms, like it's almost looking at amoeba in a microscope. And they're just moving randomly, and they're splitting, and they're generating outflow. And then that outflow generates new development. And so there's just this haphazard random motion with these storms. There are days when the computer models are completely out to lunch. And literally you can just tear them up. And then that's when you rely on your experience and your gut, and you're like, you know what, I've seen this play out before, I know what's gonna happen here. The cap, I know somebody, asked about the cap earlier. The cap can make or break severe weather forecasts here all the time. The way I like to describe it, it's like you've got a pot of water on the stove, and you dial up the heat. So you got a lid on that water. It's keeping the steam contained within the pot. So how do you break that lid in the atmosphere? Well, you can do it with a cold front or an upper air disturbance that can give those air parcels a little bit more of a boost so that they can break the cap itself. And when they do, you can see thunderstorms literally grow from just 5,000-6,000 feet tops to 40,000 feet in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes. There's a tremendous amount of energy. Many of our big severe weather days, there is a cap in place, holding back that energy all the way through the afternoon hours, late afternoon. And then when that energy is unleashed, there's a tremendous amount of power with those storms to tap into.
What are your thoughts on aviation experts warning
mean,
I mean, we have it on the side to let you know. Aviation.
so you're asking if contrails can contribute?
That's what aviation experts I've been reading about. She's saying that that can cause blankets and cause temperature change.
Yeah. I mean, everything has a tiny little effect. You know, I mean, if aircraft are making contrails, they're producing clouds, they're seeding clouds a little bit. So, you know, how much that contributes to, you know, other storms developing, you know, I think it's a tiny amount. You know, but, you know, I think it's fairly negligible, to be honest with you. I mean, when you think about everything that goes involved with you know, tornado development and with storm development, there's probably it's a little bit of a factor, but, you know, not real significant.
You know this symbol, by the way, when they give you that on TV? Yeah, we're gonna wrap you. Because it's fun. Hey, listen, the Weather Service, hey, the Weather Service, I mean, give them a hand because they do a lot of these. They do one, I mean, it's changed over the years, but they pretty much do one for every county. Now a lot of it is virtual, but they used to go to every county in our area. We got more than 36 counties, so they work really hard. So again, thank you to the National Weather Service. By the way, Dan, I don't get any commission off his book, but I should. He'll be out in the lobby signing copies if anybody wants to purchase the book. You're welcome. You owe me for that. But anyway, no, it's actually a very good read for North Texas weather. What was that? I have no idea.
It's on the desk.
Yeah, it's on the desk. I never look at the price. It's like when you buy one of those cards, you're like, really, $6 just to say happy birthday? Thank you for coming in today. We really all appreciate it. Honestly, I just love Valentine's cards. I can take that alone. Thank you all for coming in today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming too.
I'll get everything.